Day 4, no rain, no river, no stream, no puddle, not even a suspicious patch of mud worth getting excited about. A woman kneels in a dry riverbed. Not a real river, a memory of one, a long, cracked scar in the earth where water used to be. Before the season turned against her, she is not digging for treasure. She is digging for the thing every single one of your ancestors has at some point been this close to running out of. Her tongue is swollen enough that talking has stopped being worth the effort, and she is still digging. Because she knows something you don't. There is water under this riverbed. Right now, today, she just has to go get it. Modern humans go into mild panic if the office water cooler runs dry for an afternoon. Ancient humans went weeks, sometimes entire dry seasons, without a single drop of clean, obvious, sitting right there water. And most of them made it. This is how. Here's the number nobody thinks about until it's their problem. You can survive roughly 3 weeks without food. You get about 3 days without water. 3. Not 30. 3. Which means water was never a background concern for ancient humans. It was the concern. The one nobody got to stop thinking about ever for their entire lives. Food you could plan around. Water you had to guarantee. In a huge amount of the world, the Kalahari, the Australian outback, the American Southwest, the Sahara's edge, guarantee did not mean a river down the road. It meant knowing with total confidence where water was hiding when there was no water anywhere in sight, because here's the part that sounds impossible and isn't. There is almost always water nearby. You just can't see it. It's underground, or it's inside a plant, or it's about to fall out of the sky in a form you weren't taught to notice. Ancient desert-dwelling peoples didn't get lucky finding it. They had a system, and the system started with reading the ground like a page of text. Which brings us back to our friend in the dry riverbed. She is not digging randomly. She picked this exact spot, the outside curve of a bend, the lowest point of the dried channel, because water sinks and pools underground in exactly the same pattern it used to flow on the surface. This is called a sip well. Dig down through sand in the right spot, and water that's still there, just hidden below the dry crust, starts seeping into the hole. Groups across the Kalahari have used this technique for generations. Some ostrich egg water caches recovered by archaeologists are estimated to be thousands of years old, buried at known points along travel routes for exactly this emergency. Which means somewhere out there, an ancient person buried an egg full of water, marked the spot, and walked away trusting that either they or someone from their group would need it later and know exactly where to look. That is an insurance policy, written in eggshell, underground, with no paperwork and a multi-generation payout window. Try getting that kind of long-term planning out of anyone's retirement fund. Back in the riverbed, the digging has stopped being random for another reason too. She followed tracks to get here. Animal trails, particularly at dawn and dusk, tend to lead toward water because animals have exactly the same problem she does, and considerably less patience for solving it. She also read the plants. Certain vegetation only grows where there's moisture close to the surface, even when the surface itself looks bone dry. A patch of unexpectedly green growth in an otherwise dead landscape is not decoration. It's a sign posted by the plant that says there is something to drink down here. None of this was mystical intuition. It was pattern recognition, taught the same way any survival skill gets taught, by someone older, showing someone younger over and over until noticing became automatic, which is a genuinely strange thing to sit with. Somewhere in her, without her consciously working it out, a decade of childhood lessons just quietly did their job. She didn't solve a puzzle, she just already knew. While all of this is happening, her body has already been quietly falling apart for days. Dehydration doesn't wait politely for day 3 to start causing problems. Cognitive function drops early. Concentration, judgment, and reaction time all decline well before things get physically dangerous, which is an extremely inconvenient design flaw because the moment you most need to think clearly while hunting for water is exactly the moment your brain has started running on fumes. By day 2 or 3 without any water at all, in serious heat, confusion and disorientation can set in. Some documented cases of extreme dehydration include hallucinations. The brain, starved of what it needs, starts inventing things to fill the gap. which means the version of her digging in that riverbed on day 4 is not operating at full capacity. She is doing complex environmental pattern reading, precision digging, and long-term memory recall while critically dehydrated. That's not a survival story. That's a survival story with the difficulty setting cranked up by her own biology, on purpose, against her. And then water, not much. A dark, muddy inch of it pooling slowly into the bottom of the hole she dug. She doesn't drink it straight. Groups who relied on sip wells commonly used a hollow reed or grass stem to draw water up through sand, letting the sand itself act as a rough filter along the way. It is, by any modern standard, an unglamorous drink of water. Gritty, warm. Barely enough to matter. It is also, at that exact moment, the single most valuable substance on the entire planet. She is not thinking about any of that. She is just drinking. Slowly, carefully. The way someone drinks water they know took 4 days and considerable suffering to earn. Here's the part survival stories usually skip, because it isn't as dramatic as the digging. Finding the water was not the end of the problem. It was the start of a new one. She now has, at most, a few mouthfuls of muddy water sitting in a hole in the ground, and drinking it all right now, as fast as her body is screaming at her to, would be a mistake serious enough to undo 4 days of getting everything else right. Gulping large amounts of water after severe dehydration can actually make someone feel worse, not better. The body needs time to rebalance, and doing it too fast can cause nausea and vomiting, which wastes the exact water she just spent 4 days earning, so she sips. Slowly, deliberately, while every instinct she has is arguing furiously against the plan. This is arguably harder than the digging. Digging just requires knowledge and effort. This requires discipline. At the exact moment her body has the least discipline left to give. And she's not just rationing for herself, because somewhere, not too far from this riverbed, there are other people counting on her coming back. This is the detail that changes the whole story. In most ancient societies that lived in genuinely water-scarce environments, finding water was never treated as a personal win. It was a group resource, discovered and reported back immediately, because a single sip well might keep an entire family group alive for days. So once she has enough to survive the walk, she stops. Marks the spot, a specific arrangement of stones, a broken branch angled just so, a signal that means something to anyone from her group and nothing to anyone who isn't. Then she starts walking back, not toward comfort, toward other people, to tell them exactly what she just spent 4 days and a terrifying amount of willpower figuring out. Children in these groups grew up walking these same routes, watching this same reasoning happen, years before they'd ever need it themselves. Which means the actual water-finding technology here was never the digging stick, or the reed, or the eggshell. It was memory, carried person to person for longer than most written languages have existed. She's not just bringing back water. She's bringing back the location of the next 4 days her entire group gets to live. Day 4. No rain. No river. A woman kneeling in a dry riverbed, drinking gritty water through a hollow reed. From the outside, it looks like the bare minimum. Survival at its most desperate. From the inside, it's the end result of a childhood's worth of lessons. A buried egg she may never even need to find, animal tracks read correctly at dawn, and a body that kept working just long enough to finish the job it started. Nobody wrote this down. There was no manual. There was just a system, passed hand to hand, generation to generation, until it lived in people the same way breathing does. We keep our water in bottles now, sealed, labeled, delivered. She kept hers in the ground. In a plant, in a memory she didn't know she had until she needed it. Same problem, same species, wildly different toolkit. Slow down, think a little.